There's a man in history who saw the world not as he wanted it to be, but exactly as it was. His name was Arthur Schopenhauer, and he didn't write fairy tales. He didn't care for feel-good stories or romantic illusions. He chose truth, even when it was bitter, especially when it was bitter. And what he said about women, it wasn't sugar-coated. It wasn't politically correct, but it held a message for every man who dares to open his eyes. Because Schopenhauer didn't try to please women, he tried to understand them. And through that understanding, he gave you, the modern man, a chance at something most never reach: emotional freedom. He wrote it, woman is by nature meant to obey. Now before you react, pauses. Schopenhauer didn't mean domination, he wasn't promoting abuse or arrogance. He meant that women's nature is fundamentally different from a man's. And trying to treat her like a man in a dress will only bring you pain. He saw that the modern world was building illusions. And those illusions were designed to weaken men. Because when you don't understand the true nature of the feminine, you project your desires onto her. You see her as your savior, your emotional support, your spiritual soulmate. And you ignore what Schopenhauer was shouting from the past to it. She is not who you want her to be. She is who she is. And what is that? He said, women are directly adapted to the propagation of the species and are endowed with the qualities necessary to this end. In other words, a woman is biologically designed to reproduce, to secure resources, and to survive. She is emotional for a reason. She is manipulative for a reason. She tests men for a reason. She is selective, cautious, and even cruel for a reason. And if you, as a man, are still operating in a Disney-like delusion where love is pure, unconditional, and forever, you will be broken. Because love in the feminine world is conditional. It must be. Nature made it so. A woman is not attracted to your soul. She's attracted to what your presence provides. Your strength, your confidence, your ability to lead, your detachment. And the moment you begin to worship her, pedestalize her, make her your reason for living, she loses attraction, she sees weakness, and she pulls away. Schopenhauer saw this pattern over and over. He said, marrying means to halve one's rights and double one's duties. He wasn't being bitter, he was being clear. He saw how men gave up their power for the illusion of companionship, how they surrendered their vision, their mission, their solitude, for a woman who could never carry that burden with them. Not because she's evil, not because she's cruel, but because she isn't made for that. And you know what happens when a man finally sees this? He stops begging. He stops chasing. He stops expecting a woman to complete him. And in that moment, he becomes powerful. He doesn't become a monster. He becomes a master. He understands that the dance between man and woman is not based on equality, but polarity. She thrives in emotion. He thrives in logic. She lives in the now. He builds for the future. She wants security. He wants freedom. Trying to reverse this order leads to chaos. And that's what Schopenhauer warned us about. He saw a world where men were losing their edge, where they were becoming sentimental, soft, desperate for female validation, where they were willing to trade their purpose just to keep a woman around. But what Schopenhauer wanted was for men to wake up, to see that once you stop chasing women, they start chasing you. Once you stop over-explaining, over-investing, over-loving, they start feeling your absence. Because women don't love you for being available. They love you for being mysterious. Not fake mystery, but the kind that comes when a man is so grounded in his path, so secure in his presence, so content in his solitude, that her affection is a bonus, not the mission. Schopenhauer saw women not as enemies, but as forces of nature. Like the wind, the sea, the fire. You don't fight fire with emotion. You understand its rules. And you respect it, but you don't let it burn your house down. Likewise, a woman's nature isn't meant to be changed. It's meant to be understood and navigated. She will test you. She will doubt you. She will push your limits. Why? Because her biology is searching for certainty. Not in your words, but in your presence. She doesn't care about what you say. You can whisper sweet nothings all day. She's watching how you carry yourself when things fall apart. Are you calm? Are you a rock? Or do you crumble? Do you beg? Do you chase? Because if you do, she loses faith, and she will never tell you why. She'll just slowly disconnect, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and you'll be left wondering what you did wrong. But Schopenhauer already told you, a woman is like the moon, she changes every day. He didn't mean that to insult her. He meant that her essence is fluid, not fixed. And if you're expecting consistency from a feminine being, you'll always be disappointed. Instead, be consistent yourself. Be the sun, rising, radiantless. Your consistency calms her chaos. Your strength anchors her storm. But you'll never access this power if you don't detach from illusions, from neediness, from fantasy. You must embrace the truth, even when it hurts. That's what Schopenhauer did. He chose truth over comfort. And the result, he left behind a map, a message, for every man willing to wake up. So what do you do with this message? Do you hate women? Do you avoid them? No. You see them clearly. You love them with awareness, not blindness. You engage with them from strength, not desperation. You know what she is and what she is not. And in that clarity, you no longer fall for manipulation. You no longer beg for love. You no longer break when she leaves. Because you're realizing she was never meant to complete you, only to complement your journey if she's worthy. And you, as a man, are not here to chase. You are here to build, to create, to protect your mind, your energy, your mission. When you live like ironclad in focus, untouchable in spirit, she will feel it. And if she's the right woman, she will respect it. If she's not, she will test it and fail. Either way, you win, because your power is not in her hands, it's in your awareness. That is what Schopenhauer left for you. Not a message of hatred, but of awakening. A mirror, a sword, a reminder that once you stop expecting her to be your salvation, you become your own. Schopenhauer's message about women reveals not hatred, but a brutal, almost surgical honesty. And if you're the kind of man who's brave enough to face that honesty, it can do something extraordinary. It can free you, not from women, but from the illusions you've been sold about them since you were a boy. You see, the modern man is drowning, not in hardship, but in fantasy. He's been told that women love like men do. That love is unconditional. That if he just gives enough, listens enough, cares enough, she'll stay. She'll reciprocate. She'll love him forever. But Schopenhauer grabs you by the collar and says, wake up, because this dream, the dream of eternal romantic validation, of feminine loyalty independent of strength or status, is just that, a dream. And every man who builds his life on that illusion eventually wakes up in ruins. Schopenhauer wasn't bitter, he was liberated. He saw through the veil, he understood that seeing a woman clearly, without idealizing her, without resenting her, is the first step toward masculine freedom. He didn't say, hate women. He said, stop worshipping them. He didn't say, avoid love. He said, stop letting it blind you. He didn't say, never commit. He said, know what you're committing to. Because once you shed the illusions, once you stop expecting women to be angels, healers, or therapists, you stop being weak. You stop being needy. You stop being heartbroken by reality simply doing what reality does. And in that moment, you gain something most men never experience: clarity. Not anger, not fear, just clarity. And clarity is power. Because when you see clearly, you move differently. You speak with calm, lead without needing to be followed. You love without losing yourself. That's what Schopenhauer's message was pointing toward. Not the end of relationships, not the end of love, but the end of self-deception. And for the man who's been lied to by movies, by music, by modern culture, that kind of honesty isn't cruel. It's a lifeline, a way out of the darkness, a way back to your own strength. A man who understands the primal nature of women, as seen by Schopenhauer, doesn't operate from confusion. He doesn't sit in his room at 2 a.m. wondering, why did she change? He doesn't replay every word, every moment, trying to find the mistake, because he knows her behavior is not personal, it's biological. He sees her not as some unpredictable mystery, but as a refined, instinct-driven creature, shaped by nature to prioritize survival, security, and selection. He doesn't ask, why is she emotional? He understands that emotion is her guidance system. He doesn't ask, why is she testing me? He realizes her tests are a form of protection, to weed out weakness. He doesn't say, why can't she love me the same way I love her? He knows she's not designed to. And this isn't cruelty. This is nature. Schopenhauer saw that when a man stops expecting a woman to mirror him, to act with male logic, to respond with male loyalty, he becomes free. Free from resentment, free from disappointment, free from the exhausting emotional guessing game. Because clarity breeds peace, and peace is the foundation of strength. When a man operates from clarity, he doesn't react, he responds. When she pulls away, he doesn't panic, he observes. When she tests him, he doesn't collapse, he stands firm. When she doubts him, he doesn't plead, he lets his actions speak. This kind of man doesn't need control. He has understanding, and understanding is the highest form of control, because you're no longer ruled by emotional chaos. Schopenhauer gave men this lens so they could stop blaming women and start mastering themselves. Because once you understand the primal feminine, you don't fight it, you don't try to tame it. You simply lead it calmly, powerfully, without losing yourself. And in that leadership, you become exactly the kind of man women are wired to follow. Not out of fear, not out of dependency, but out of natural biological respect. That's the power of clarity. And that's the reward for every man who dares to look past the illusion and see the truth. True masculine strength doesn't come from domination. It's not about controlling her every move, policing her emotions, or demanding loyalty from fear. That's not strength. That's insecurity dressed up in a loud voice. And it doesn't come from submission either. It's not about constantly agreeing, always pleasing, or shrinking yourself to avoid conflict. That's not love. That's quiet self-betrayal. Not true masculine strength lives in a different place entirely. It lives in detachment, the ability to want but not need, to feel deeply, but never lose yourself in those feelings, to stay present in the storm without becoming the storm. It lives in self mastery, the discipline to stay calm when provoked, the awareness to walk away when something violates your peace, the clarity to know when to fight and when to let go. And perhaps most powerfully, true masculine strength lies in understanding what cannot be changed. Schopenhauer saw it clearly. There are elements of the feminine nature that are not flaws. They are features of a survival based design. Trying to mold them into something else is like screaming at the wind, begging the ocean to be still, or demanding fire to stop being hot. It's madness. And most men live in that madness, constantly resisting reality, constantly hurting themselves in the process. But the man who understands, he doesn't resist, he accepts, he doesn't surrender his standards, but he also doesn't wage war against nature. He moves differently. He knows she will change, so he anchors himself. She will test, so he strengthens himself. He knows she may leave, so he never builds his entire identity around her presence. That's not cold. That's not unloving. That is power, refined through wisdom. Because the masculine doesn't just want control, it wants freedom. And freedom only comes when you release the need to change what is outside you and commit to mastering what is within you. That's the highest expression of manhood. Not the man who conquers her, but the man who's already conquered himself.